After the resurrection, the disciples were quite chagrined to discover that the kingdom wasn't going to fully arrive just on their timetable. And in fact, Jesus rather surprisingly announced that they were still going to encounter suffering for His cause and for His name. What they discovered was that to be part of the kingdom in this life still entails suffering, because the world hates Christ, it hates His followers. At the same time, however, if we belong to Christ, we are suffering for His sake. If we're suffering for His sake, that suffering authenticates the reality and truthfulness of our devotion to Christ, and therefore it ensures our place in the kingdom. This is what Paul means in Romans 8, when he says that we will share in His glory if we share in Christ's suffering. This is not a message that's easy to hear, but it does point to the certainty of our future hope in the new heaven and the new earth.
Today in chapel, we heard from Dr. Gable and learned that suffering gives birth to hope. This is good news, church. I have been crucified with Christ. We have been crucified with Christ. Because of this, we can have true life and have life to the fullest and know what it is to be like Christ, to share in the glory of Christ. We are called to belong. We are called to mission. We are called to be and belong to Christ and be with Him. Yes, this means there will be suffering, but be encouraged because Christ has overcome the world.
Today in chapel we heard from Dr. Gable, and he was talking about suffering, and he asked the question, if the kingdom is here, as Jesus claimed that it was, why is there still suffering in the world? And he came to the conclusion that suffering is the result of sin. There's still suffering in the world because there's sin in the world. And he talked about, as Christians, how we are going to suffer, but in the midst of our suffering, we can have hope because we're counted as worthy to suffer for Christ. We have something to look forward to. We have the fullness of the kingdom coming. And because of that, we can take comfort in the fact that there is still hope for us.